I was never supposed to find it. It started with boredom, late at night, the glow of my monitor the only light in my room. I was deep in a dark web marketplace forum, scrolling past the usual illicit trades, counterfeit documents, rare narcotics, hacked accounts. But then, buried between two mundane threads, I saw it. Elysium Market. Souls for sale. At first, I thought it was a joke, a twisted attempt at dark humor in an already disturbing corner of the internet. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. The link wasn't just clickable, it invited me. No captcha, no Bitcoin deposit, just a simple phrase: enter, and understand the price of eternity. The website was cold, white text on a black void. Categories listed like an unholy menu: lost souls, willing souls, trapped souls, each with descriptions, prices, and a grotesque detail I can't unsee. Delivery method: digital or physical. I should have closed the tab right then, but I clicked on one listing. A name appeared: Elias Grant. Age 26. Status: pending extraction. Price: 3.5 Bitcoin. That's when I noticed something. The profile picture, the face staring back at me, was mine. And below it, a countdown timer had started. I'm telling this story because the timer hasn't stopped yet, and I think someone's already coming for me. Story number 1. The auction. It started on a sleepless Thursday night, long past midnight, when the world outside was dead silent, and the glow of my laptop screen felt like a portal to somewhere I shouldn't be. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just browsing forums that danced around the edges of legality. Curiosity. It's a slow poison, and I had already swallowed too much of it. Somewhere deep in a thread filled with cryptic links and warnings typed in all caps, I found it. A simple hyperlink labeled "The Market." When the page loaded, I expected chaos, a clutter of garish images, flashing ads, or at the very least something crude and unsettling. Instead, it was elegant. A black background, white text, and a header that simply read, "Welcome to the Hollow." All sales are final. Rows of listings scrolled down the screen, antique artifacts with ominous warnings, preserved body parts marked "for ritual use only," handwritten notes promising curses for hire. My stomach turned, but I kept scrolling until one listing froze me in place. Lot number 47, Soul, verified authentic. There was no image, just a flickering flame icon. The description was short and haunting. One soul, bound and verified through proprietary methods, guaranteed authenticity, auction closes in 72 hours. A timer ticked down below the description. 3 days. It felt absurd, cartoonishly evil even. But the longer I stared at those words, the more the world around me seemed to blur. I leaned closer to the screen, my mouse hovering over the option to create an account. I told myself I just wanted to watch, just observe from a distance and satisfy my curiosity. That was all. The account creation was seamless, no email verification, no personal questions. They assigned me a username, Observer329. A confirmation message popped up notifying me that I was now watching lot number 47. Inside the auction lobby, everything felt colder. The chat panel buzzed with activity. Anonymous users with names like Void Seeker, 13th Caller, and Umbra99 were leaving short, clipped messages. They spoke in riddles, warnings, and accusations. They weren't joking. The tone wasn't playful, it was tense. The bid stood at 3.5 Bitcoin. It was more money than most people would see in a lifetime. Yet every few hours, the number crept higher and the chat grew darker. People were talking about consequences, about things changing after winning, about regrets they couldn't voice directly. Against my better judgment, I kept watching. I stayed glued to the screen as if afraid that looking away might change something fundamental in the universe. And then a private message appeared in the corner of the screen. Winners aren't always lucky. There was no username attached, no way to reply, just those words lingering like a stain on the screen. I minimized the tab and pushed the laptop away, my heart drumming against my ribs. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. My thoughts circled the same haunting question: what happens when someone wins? The final hours of the auction arrived quicker than I expected. The timer now glowed red, 2:14:7. I couldn't tear myself away. The chat was chaotic, arguments, desperate warnings, cryptic predictions of doom. But one bidder stood out, a user named Abyss Watcher. They weren't just bidding, they were winning. And then, in a moment of impulsive stupidity, I clicked the place bid button. I didn't even have Bitcoin in my wallet. I expected an error message, a rejection, anything. But instead, the screen froze for a moment before flashing a confirmation message: bid accepted, verification complete. The chat went silent. Messages stopped mid-typing, and then a new screen appeared. Congratulations, you are now the owner of lot number 47. Delivery has been arranged. Prepare yourself. The air in my room felt heavy, the silence suffocating. My phone buzzed on the desk. It was a text from an unknown number. Delivery ETA, 3 a.m. I stared at the clock. It was 2:43 a.m. The minutes crawled by, my body frozen with anticipation and dread. At exactly 3 a.m., 3 sharp knocks echoed from my front door. I crept to the door, holding my breath as I peered through the peephole. There was no one there. The street outside was empty, but on the doorstep sat a small cardboard box sealed with black wax. It wasn't marked. No label, no address. Just waiting. I brought it inside and set it on the table. My hands shook as I broke the wax seal and carefully lifted the lid. Inside was a glass jar, thick, unyielding glass, ice cold to the touch. Inside the jar, something moved. Smoke, but alive. It coiled and twisted, forming fleeting shapes. A hand pressing against the inside, a face with hollow eyes staring back at me. And then, the whispering started. "Please, let me out. Please." The voice wasn't faint, it was sharp, distinct, cutting through the silence of the room. My phone buzzed again. Another text. Lot number 47 is non-refundable. Do not break the seal. You are responsible now. The jar pulsed slightly in my hands, as though whatever was inside could feel me holding it. I shoved it back into the box, wrapped it in layers of old blankets, and shoved it into the darkest corner of my closet. But the whispering didn't stop. At night, I hear it. Faint, muffled by the walls and fabric, but it's always there. Please. Please. It's so dark. Sometimes I feel the urge to open it, to just look one more time. But every instinct in my body screams at me not to. The website is gone. The link won't load anymore. It's like it never existed. But the jar remains, and so does the voice. Would you have placed a bid just to see what happens? Or would you have closed the laptop right away? Story number 2, the whispering profile. It started with insomnia. The kind where you're not just awake. You're aware of every creak in the floorboards, every faint hum of electronics, every distant car passing by. At 2:14 a.m., I found myself scrolling through forums that existed on the fringes of the internet, forums where anonymity was sacred and curiosity was a dangerous game. One link led to another, and I ended up on a thread titled, "Where Souls Go to Die." The users spoke in fragmented sentences, typing as if every word might summon something they feared. They talked about transactions, rituals, and contracts. But one name kept appearing in hushed mentions, S-Ual-C-Soul-3-C-T-R. Someone wrote, "If you're serious about finding one, he's the gatekeeper." I clicked on his profile. It was almost empty. No posts, no history. Just a black void for a profile picture and a bio that read, I know what you're looking for." Against every instinct screaming at me to leave, I clicked Message User. I typed one word: "Hello." The reply came instantly: "You shouldn't have come here." I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then a second message appeared. "But since you're here, tell me, what are you willing to trade?" I typed back, asking what he meant. "A soul. Isn't that why you're here?" Something in the way he phrased it felt certain, like he already knew my intentions before I did. I tried to play it off, typing something dismissive about curiosity and urban legends. His reply was immediate. "Curiosity isn't harmless. It's the first step toward debt." The screen flickered. For a split second, I thought I saw a distorted face in the black void of his profile picture, something wide-eyed, hollow, and staring right at me. I closed the forum tab and shut my laptop. But when I reopened it hours later, the forum was still there, and a new message awaited me. "You can't leave now. We've started something, you and I." I slammed the laptop shut again, but the whispers began that night. Software like distant breaths in my headphones, like faint voices just outside my window. Over the next 2 days, my computer became unusable. Pop-ups filled the screen every time I tried to browse anything else, all of them the same words. "Come back, Drifter." Yes, that's what he was calling me now. Drifter. When I finally gave in and reopened the forum, he was waiting. "You shouldn't have ignored me. I told him to leave me alone." I typed it over and over again, but every time I hit send, the same message came back: "I'm already here." Then he sent me a link, a live stream. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the mousepad. But curiosity, always curiosity, won out. The stream opened to a grainy, low-resolution feed. At first, I couldn't tell what I was looking at. The camera was shaking slightly, almost as if someone was breathing heavily while holding it. Then I realized it was my bedroom. The view was from the corner of the room, right near the window, my bed, my chair, the half-empty coffee cup on my desk. And then the camera shifted downward. It was looking at me. I was sitting there, staring at my screen, staring back at myself. I spun around in my chair so fast I nearly fell. The window was closed, the room was empty, but the camera on the stream was still pointed at me, the angle slightly different now, as if whoever was holding it had leaned closer. Then the whispering grew louder. "I'm right here, can you hear me? You shouldn't have looked." I slammed the laptop shut. I don't remember much after that. Adrenaline and panic blur memories into a hazy mess. I tore the laptop's power cable out, ripped the battery from its casing, and shoved the entire thing into a garbage bag before throwing it in the dumpster behind my building. But it didn't stop. The whispers stayed. They followed me from room to room, crawling through the quiet spaces between the hum of my refrigerator and the creak of my floorboards. When I tried to sleep, I'd hear faint static in the corners of my room, like someone was still watching, still whispering. I moved apartments. I changed my number. I stayed away from the internet for weeks. But every so often, late at night, my phone will vibrate with an unknown notification. No text, no sender, just a blank screen and the faint sound of static. I don't open them anymore. I don't reply. But the whispers, they never really stopped. Ever had a stranger online seem to know a little too much about you? Story number 3. The trade. The seller's terms were clear: 1 soul for 1 wish, no refunds, and I had something I desperately wanted. Grief makes you reckless. It strips away logic, peels you down to something raw and desperate. After my sister Emily died, I wasn't myself anymore. She was only 23, a stupid accident, a rainy highway, and a driver who should have never been behind the wheel. I couldn't accept it. I couldn't let her just be gone. Nights blurred together as I sat in front of my computer, scrolling forums and rabbit holes I had no business being in. I wasn't even sure what I was searching for, some kind of loophole, some cosmic backdoor to undo what had happened. That's when I found it. It was buried deep, a forum thread with a single link titled The Wishing Well. The website was minimal, a black screen, a single line of text in white serif font. Make your wish, pay the price. Underneath was a button. Begin trade. I hesitated. My cursor hovered over the button, my heart racing, but grief is louder than reason. I clicked. A chat window opened. At the top, a username, The Broker. A message appeared instantly. One soul for one wish. No refunds. Are you certain you want to proceed? My hands shook as I typed back, yes. The screen shifted to a form, full name, date of birth, consent box, and then the wish. I wish for Emily to come back. The screen went black. Your wish has been accepted. Await delivery. Delivery, like it was a pizza order. I sat there, staring at the screen, waiting for something to happen. At 3:33 a.m., my phone buzzed on my desk. It was a text from Emily's number. Where am I? The air in my apartment felt frozen. My fingers hovered over the screen, trembling. I typed back, Emily, is it really you? The 3 dots appeared. She was typing. It's so dark here. I'm cold. I nearly dropped the phone. Every rational part of me screamed that this wasn't real, that someone was messing with me. But deep down, beneath all the doubt and fear, I wanted it to be her. Come home, please. No reply. The next day, I couldn't focus on anything. I sat at my desk, staring blankly at my phone, waiting for it to buzz. It felt like time had stopped. That night, at exactly 2 a.m., it did. I'm outside. I froze. Slowly, I got up and walked to the window. The street below was empty. No cars, no people, nothing. But sitting on my doorstep was something small and familiar. Emily's bracelet, the one she'd worn every single day since high school. It was stained dark, crusted with something I didn't want to think about. I picked it up with shaking hands, clutching it so tightly it left marks on my palm. I had made a wish, and it was working, but it didn't feel right. The messages kept coming. Every night, they grew stranger, more desperate. Why did you bring me back? They're watching me. It's not what you think. I barely slept. My apartment felt different, colder, like something was pressing against the edges of reality, trying to seep in. Then, on the 4th night, the final message came. I'm here. I turned around, and there she was. Emily stood in the corner of my room. But it wasn't her. Her skin was pale, almost translucent. Her eyes were hollow, dark, like something had scooped out the person inside and left only a shell. Her clothes were the same ones she'd been buried in, torn and stained with mud and dried blood. When she spoke, her voice sounded distant, like it was being broadcasted from somewhere impossibly far away. Why did you do this to me? I couldn't speak. My throat was locked tight, my chest aching with guilt and fear. They said you have to pay. They said you can't undo it. Her head twitched slightly to the side, her mouth trembling like she was trying to say something else. But then she was gone. Just gone. The silence that followed felt like it was crushing me. I scrambled back to my laptop. The wishing well. The broker. I had to undo this. I had to fix it. But the website was gone. The link led nowhere. It was like it had never existed. But then, one last message popped up on my screen. It was from the broker. A deal's a deal. Your wish was granted. Payment is final. The lights flickered. The shadows in the corners of my room seemed to deepen. I heard faint whispers, just out of earshot but constant, circling me like predators in the dark. I unplugged the computer. I smashed it. I threw my phone across the room, but it didn't matter. Every night since then, I hear them. Whispers, Emily's voice, faint scratching sounds from inside the walls. Sometimes my phone lights up with a text from an unknown number. You owe us. There's no escaping it. I made a wish, and it was granted. But wishes aren't gifts. They're contracts. And a contract always demands payment. If you could trade your soul for one thing, would you risk it? What would you wish for? Story number 4, the return policy. Buried deep in the FAQ section of a dark website was a line I'd never noticed before. Returns available at a cost. I don't think guilt is something you can ever really scrub out of your mind. It stains you, seeps into every corner of your thoughts until it feels like a permanent part of who you are. After the trade, I carried that guilt like an anchor chained around my neck. Emily was gone, but not really gone. I'd brought her back, and in doing so, I'd ruined everything. She wasn't supposed to be here, not in that twisted, hollow form I'd seen standing in my room. And even though the whispers had quieted a little, they hadn't stopped completely. They came late at night, slipping through the cracks of my sanity. It's cold. It's so dark. I was suffocating under the weight of it all when I found the line buried in a cached version of the Wishing Wells FAQ page. Returns available at a cost. It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. My mind raced with possibilities, but deep down, I already knew. Nothing from that website came without strings. But I didn't care. I'd already crossed the line into madness, so what was one more step? The instructions weren't easy to find, but I pieced them together from scattered screenshots, archived threads, and warnings scribbled like digital graffiti. The ritual must be followed exactly. Failure will not be forgiven. It listed items I needed, things that felt impossibly specific. A lock of my hair, 3 drops of blood, a shard of glass, and Emily's bracelet. But the final requirement was the worst. An offering of equal weight. The instructions didn't clarify what that meant, but I had a feeling, deep, gut-level dread, that it was asking for more than just a trinket or a token. I spent the whole day preparing, moving furniture to clear space in my living room. The symbols took hours to carve into the wooden floor, jagged and sharp, like they didn't want to be drawn. At midnight, I placed Emily's jar, the one I'd buried in the back of my closet, at the center of the circle. The smoke inside it shifted as if it knew. 3 candles, black wax, arranged in a perfect triangle. I struck the match, my hand trembling as each wick flared to life. The air in the room changed immediately. It grew thick, heavy. The flickering flames cast long, twisted shadows that seemed to stretch and stare. I started reading the incantation, words I didn't understand, words that felt like they scraped against my throat as I spoke them. The smoke inside the jar went still. The shadows on the wall stopped moving. And then, as if whispered directly into my ear, I heard the final instruction. The final offering must be given willingly. My blood turned to ice. It was asking for me. I dropped to my knees, staring at the jar. The symbols carved into the floor glowed faintly, and the shadows along the walls seemed to lean closer, waiting. The ritual demanded equal weight. I'd made the deal to bring Emily back, but now it wanted something in return. My soul, my life, something. My mind raced with excuses, loopholes, escape plans. Could I cheat it? Could I trick it? But deep down, I already knew the answer. There's no tricking something like this. I picked up the shard of glass from the edge of the circle. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped it. Blood seals the deal. The words pulsed in my mind, like they were being hammered into the soft tissue of my brain. I pressed the glass against my palm, a sharp sting, warmth spreading across my skin. Blood dripped onto the symbols etched into the floor, And the moment the first drop hit, the smoke in the jar went wild, thrashing, spiraling, slamming against the glass. The candles flared bright, blinding, and then silence. The jar cracked. A hairline fracture snaked across the glass before it shattered into pieces. The smoke spilled out, pooling onto the floor like liquid shadow. It lingered there for a moment before it began to fade, seeping into the cracks of the floor, into the walls, into everything. And then, just before the last wisp disappeared, I heard Emily's voice. "It's quiet now. Thank you." The shadows withdrew. The air felt lighter. And for the first time in months, it was silent. I sat there for what felt like hours, surrounded by broken glass and wax puddles, staring at the empty space where the jar had been. Emily was gone, and whatever I'd done, it worked, but something was wrong. I felt hollow, like something inside me had been scooped out and replaced with cold, empty space. I couldn't shake the feeling that the deal wasn't done yet. My phone buzzed, a notification from an unknown number. A deal's a deal. I stared at those words, my pulse hammering in my ears. The whispers haven't come back. The shadows don't move anymore, but there's something off. Sometimes I'll catch my reflection in a mirror, and for a split second, it doesn't look like me. And every night before I close my eyes, I wonder if whatever debt I paid was enough, or if something is still coming to collect. Because some debts can never be repaid, and some contracts can never be broken. Some debts can never be repaid, and some contracts can never be broken. Would you have gone through with the ritual? Or would you have accepted the consequences? Story number 5, the forgotten account. It started with an email. "We noticed unusual activity on your account. Please log in to verify." The problem? I hadn't logged into that account in over 6 years. It was one of those emails that should have gone straight to spam. The subject line read, "Account security alert. Immediate action required." Normally, I'd delete it without a second glance, but something about it gnawed at me. The sender wasn't some sketchy phishing address. It was an old username tied to an account I hadn't touched in years, forgotten user 91. The memory hit me in a rush. 6 years ago, during a late-night spiral of boredom and poor decisions, I'd made an account on a dark web marketplace. It had been a joke back then, a dare from a friend, a let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes kind of thing. I don't remember much about that night, just vague flashes, a flickering screen, strange product listings, and a pounding headache from one too many drinks. But I did remember one thing. I'd placed an order. The details were blurry, but I knew it wasn't normal. Against every ounce of common sense, I clicked the link in the email. The site loaded slowly, the screen dark with that same eerie white text. "Welcome back, forgotten user 91. My stomach tightened. A blinking notification caught my eye. "You have one pending message." I clicked it. "You came back. That means you're ready." Ready for what? Before I could process it, another message appeared. "Don't worry, we remember your order." I scrolled down and froze. There, in faded text, was an entry from 6 years ago. "One soul, delivery pending." I slammed my laptop shut, my breath coming in short gasps. My mind raced through foggy memories, trying to piece together what I'd done. I remembered typing something into an order box, half laughing, half curious. What was it? But the specifics wouldn't come back. All day I felt like I was being watched. Every noise in my apartment felt louder, every shadow darker. By sunset, my stomach was knotted with dread. At 11:57 p.m. my phone buzzed. A text, no name, no number, just words. "Your delivery is outside." My breath caught in my throat. Slowly, I walked to the front door. My hand shook as I turned the handle. The street was empty, silent except for the faint hum of a distant streetlight. But right there, sitting on my doormat, was a box. It was small, wooden, and sealed with thick black wax. A symbol, something sharp and chaotic, was stamped into the wax. I didn't want to touch it. Every instinct screamed at me to leave it there, to run, to burn it. But I picked it up. It was heavier than it looked and cold, like it had been sitting in a freezer. I carried it to my kitchen table and stared at it, my pulse loud in my ears. Then I heard it, a faint whisper. "Please, let me out." I backed away so fast I nearly tripped over a chair. The whispering continued, soft, distant but impossibly clear. "You promised. You can't leave me here." I grabbed my phone and went back to the website, desperate to find something. Instructions, an FAQ, anything. But the transaction page had changed. Delivery complete. Ownership is now final. Ownership. My mouth went dry. What did that mean? Ownership of what? Another message appeared in the chat box. "Do not open the box. Ownership is now your responsibility." My chest felt tight, my breath shallow. The wax seal on the box seemed to pulse like it was alive. The whispering grew louder, more urgent. "It's dark in here. Let me out, please." I picked up the box, hands trembling, and considered throwing it out the window. But something stopped me. Fear. What if breaking the seal made it worse? What if it let something out? The messages kept coming on my phone. "Do not open it. Do not break the seal. You agreed to this." Agreed to what? My mind raced back to that blurry night 6 years ago. I'd typed something stupid, something desperate. "I just want someone who'll never leave me." The memory hit me like ice water in my veins. This was it. This was the price. The box is still here. I couldn't open it. I couldn't destroy it. I've tried burying it, locking it in a safe, even driving to the middle of nowhere and leaving it behind. But every single time it comes back. Sometimes it's on my doorstep, sometimes it's on my kitchen table, and once, God help me, it was on my pillow when I woke up. The whispers haven't stopped. They're always there, faint, just on the edge of my hearing. "You promised. You promised." I don't know how long I can keep living like this. The weight of that box, the responsibility, is suffocating. I've stopped looking at the messages. They still come, day after day. Each one says the same thing. Do not abandon it. Ownership is final. I made a wish 6 years ago, and it came true in the cruelest way possible. There's no refund, no return policy. And the worst part, I don't even know if whatever's inside that box is human anymore. Sometimes I catch myself staring at the seal, my fingers twitching with the urge to break it, to see. But I know better. Because some boxes aren't meant to be opened. Some wishes should never be made. And some debts, they follow you forever. Some promises are written in ink, others are written in blood. And those are for Eve. If you found a box on your doorstep and heard a voice whispering from inside, would you open it?